Hi everyone, I'm Julia Henze, an artist, urban sketcher, and art teacher dedicated to guiding you on your creative journey. I'm also the founder of Brave Brush Studio, a membership for amateur artists and urban sketchers that will help you experience the joy of play in your artistic process. If you wish you could paint soft, beautiful, and elegant lines more consistently with watercolor, this three-part series is for you. In this series, you will learn different ways to use a rigger brush, which is this brush with very long bristles. It's perfect to use anytime you want to paint long, thin, and interesting strokes. In part 1 and 2, which are linked in the description below, you learned techniques for painting elegant trees and water reflections. Today, in part 3, you will learn a technique for painting dynamic power and boat lines, which is perfect for adding interest to your urban sketches. The rigger brush is a difficult brush to master, but it's worth experimenting with. You will never achieve exactly the same effect using a brush with shorter bristles. That said, if you don't have a rigger brush, you can do these exercises with a small round brush with stiffer bristles instead. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, again, before we start doing the exercises, I want to show you a few of the examples what we can do with this technique. Okay, so for example, let me show you. I showed you these boats in the previous tutorial with the rigger brush. You can see that we can paint the mast, but also we can paint the lines of the boats, and they look very, very elegant and not that stiff and hard. And here, for example, it's pretty much the same, but here you see just a few lines in the distance, and you also can use the rigger brush for that. Also an example how you can use your rigger brush also for the boat lines. This is something different. You can use your rigger brush for the lines, for the windmill, for example. Also a good way to create very, very thin lines, or the thicker ones, also better than when you use a regular brush. Okay, here also a few power lines, here, and as you can see, they look quite interesting because we can vary the pressure of the line, and this way we create a more engaging look in our sketch. Okay, now let's start with practicing. And again, it's the third time that we do it, so I'm sure you already know the way that we actually put our paint on the palette. So let's use, what colors can we use? Let's use blue and Payne's green again, and again I use a thicker brush, not my rigger brush, but the thicker brush to put it on my palette because it's easier to get more color on the palette than when we use this very thin brush. Okay, so once again, I'm sure you already know it, but once again, relax your shoulder, relax your whole arm, and you relax your wrist. And in this tutorial, we will paint the longest lines of the whole series. So that means that we are not going to paint from our wrist or our arm, but we will paint actually from the whole body. We will try to move the whole body when we paint these lines. And let's start with just long lines and put enough paper, put enough water on the brush, and just paint a line like this. There's a horizontal line, and I move my whole body with the brush. You can see that I don't move my wrist or arm or anything else. I only move my body. And this is the way to create a straight line, pretty much straight, and also a consistent line. We can go a little bit faster, and we can also, I held my brush closer to the ferrule now, or we can also try to do it closer to the tip of the brush, like this. It's a little bit more difficult to control the line then. However, the line is thinner. So the closer to the ferrule we hold the brush, the thicker the line. Let's paint another stroke, a vertical stroke. And now I hold my brush again closer to the ferrule, and I need to sit a little bit better for that. And let's, again, I move my whole body to paint a stroke, a straight stroke. And you can try to hold your hand in there, your whole arm actually, or you can try to use your pinky for painting. I think it's better if you get used to painting, to hold your elbow and the arm in the air. It's just better. Sometimes you can't use your pinky because there is some wet paint on your paper, for example. Okay, now let's do another exercise. Let's paint some wires. And for practicing that, we will hold our brush closer to the tip. And oh, there is already some paint on the paper. And we will use a kind of dancing movement for that. So like this. And we can go the other way around. And again, it's important that you paint these long strokes, moving your whole body. We can make them shorter. Longer. And you will notice that in the beginning they are not very beautiful, not straight, and maybe a little bit hesitating, but try to avoid the hesitation and this kind of mid strokes. So don't stop halfway of the strokes. Try to paint it from the beginning to the end. Okay, so this is how we can practice painting wires. Now let's see how we can paint a boat. For example, for the thicker parts, we again can use can hold our brush closer to the ferrule and paint a stroke like this. And let's paint a flag. Okay, so, and for the lines, Actually, we need to make it a thicker line. Or maybe it's a bit too thick. But anyway, it's for practicing, so don't worry about lines, not the two straight lines, or I don't know, when they are not as beautiful as you want to. The most important thing that you practice a lot, and you can see that the more lines you create, the easier it becomes. Here, for example, and we can add, I don't know, here we can also add a reflection to the boat. So I don't know, just a fantasy picture. Today you've learned how to use a rigger brush to paint dynamic boat and power lines. You aren't going to master the techniques in this series in a day, so keep practicing and the results will be worth it. And if you want to develop these techniques further, consider becoming a member of Brave Brushes Studio at bravebrushes.com. The membership includes some fantastic intermediate lessons to practice with these watercolor techniques, from reflections on water to a gorgeous red cabin in a snowy forest. And you can even ask me for a personalized feedback on your sketches. Let me know in the comments how you found this series. What technique do you think you are likely to use the most in your sketches? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Happy sketching, guys, and I'll see you next week.